Hi, friends around the world. Welcome to Prime Testimony YouTube channel. I am Ato Brentishan, aka Ato Testimony. Prime Testimony is a channel dedicated to tapping and sharing information from the original source. In fact, it's testimonies shared by people who are part of the story. We use informal interviews and our community presence in unearthing stories. Stories that may be of interest to you. Stories that defines the lifestyle, the culture of the people, the cultural values and the perception of the African living everywhere. So we'll do stories about children, we'll do about youth especially, and sometimes we'll do about adults. Now, just come along with me as I share filler from my maiden video I have titled My Cute Lessons from COVID-19, Ato's Testimony. COVID-19 has brought a lot of lessons, and I have personally learned a lot. Individuals have learned, corporate bodies have learned, churches have learned, mosques have learned, nations have learned, and even as continents, we have all learned. On the individual level, I have learned to appreciate the importance of planning, effective planning. Because during the COVID, we heard around late December last year that something of that nature had started somewhere in China. By the time Christmas came and we hit the new year, we heard it was spreading towards Europe and the Americas. By February, it was in Ghana, then in many countries. So what I learned from COVID is that if you don't save, if you don't plan your life, some unforeseen contingencies will occur, or some disasters will occur, and because you have not planned, you become very adequate. That is why every human being on this earth has to get more than one stream of income. Because during COVID, one thing I learned that those in the hospitality industries and those businesses that involves, bringing people together really suffered. So what I've learned is that as a worker, as a child, as a youth, even as an adult, you need to consider other multiple streams of income so that should the unforeseen occurs, you'll be able to depend upon another stream of income. One thing I also learned is that it is not good to procrastinate. When it happened, my ATM card had expired, and I had always decided, I will renew. Then unexpectedly, bang, we were asked to remain indoors for 3 weeks, and it was difficult. Here's a case: you have money, you cannot go to the bank. Even if you want to go to the bank, there were so much restrictions. So anytime that I needed money, it was a hell of time, though I had some money in my account. So I realized that it is not good to procrastinate anything in this world. For example, maybe you as an individual have decided that you want to start a business, and for years you've been procrastinating. It is not good. And I think what COVID has taught us should let us learn great lessons, that whatever you've decided you want to do, you've got to do it now. One thing I also learned about life during this COVID season is the importance of maintaining good relationship with your neighbors. During COVID, that is where we realize the importance of depending upon one another. It is very important to relate well to your neighbors, to your workmates, to people that you see. There are cultural differences in Africa, especially in Ghana. You meet everybody on the streets. It may not be so in Europe and other areas, but depending upon wherever you come from, remember that human beings matter, people matter. We are not an island, so it is important for us to relate well with our fellow human beings. Hey, let's talk about personal hygiene. Until COVID came, some people didn't consider the importance of washing our hands frequently, especially with soap. But COVID forced us to do what we should do it ordinarily to maintain, good health. It is very important to maintain good health. good personal hygiene, our home environment, and even in our communities. Therefore, at the community-wide section, when there is time for communal labor, you've got to contribute to your quota. You have to help clean your communities. The sanitation of your communities is, the responsibility of each one of us. So that's one thing I also learned, and I believe as community members also really learn. Adherence to safety protocol is something I also learned. I am a Christian. Somebody may be a Muslim. Whatever religion that you may be subscribing to, I believe you pray. But one thing I learned during COVID is that we don't succeed in life only with prayer. We pray, but at the same time we have to adhere to the Ministry of Health's safety protocol. So when you say sanitize your hands, you don't say I prayed, I fasted a number of days, so you will not, sanitize your hands. When they say wear the nose mask, you've got to wear the nose mask, because God is not a God of magician. He's a God of common sense. So as we pray, we have to do our part so that at the end of the day, He'll be able to protect us all. Back in senior high school days, you hear people that, for me, when I finish the high school and I travel abroad, I would never come here. I would never come to Africa. Hey, by now, I believe COVID has taught each of us a lesson that wherever God has placed you, He knows why He placed you there. Yes, I know there will be migration. People will be moving in search of jobs to go and educate themselves and others. But remember that this COVID has taught us that wherever God has placed you, you can prosper and eat the good of the land. Wherever God has placed you, COVID should tell you by this time, because during COVID, our politicians even got to know that there's no hiding place for any of them. So they had no alternative than to remain in their country and contribute their quota to help fight this pandemic. In fact, COVID is not a good thing, but through this, we have been taught a lesson, a lot of lessons as individuals, as nations, as corporate bodies. I personally have learned a lot. Some of them I am, sharing with you, because God created the world and He saw that everything He did was good. During COVID, I realized that planning is very important, as I've already mentioned. Can you imagine if COVID should persist for a number of years, which I pray doesn't happen? My brother, my sister, the question I'm asking you is that the work that you are doing, are you putting something aside for pensions? What are you saving? What investment are you doing so that in times of difficulty, you will turn? It is very, very important. Churches, I'm asking you, it is good to collect offerings for the advancement of God's work. It is good. Those who believe in tithe paying, is good to pay tithe. But whatever you believe in, my question is that as a church, the monies that we collect, do we put some of them into investment? You remember churches, some of the churches were not able to survive during this COVID season, because it was all about fundraising. Yes, you raise funds, but remember that if you don't put some into investment, there will be a time that the members themselves may not even have enough financial resources to give. So in terms of planning, I think it has set very good, caution and warning to leaders of churches and mosques to utilize the financial resources that are giving us, so that at the end of the day, you'll be able to use to support the church and ourselves. Those who believe in tithe paying, the Bible tells us that part of the money should go to the widows and the orphans. My pastor, my friend, a church leader, what are you doing for the needy ones? What are you doing for the orphans? What are you doing for the widows? I believe COVID has taught us so much lessons. Remember, this is Prime Testimony Channel, and as I did tell you before I began my submission, remember to subscribe to this channel, remember to like it, remember to share. I'm enjoying myself here. I don't know whether you are enjoying yourself as well. So let us remember these things. One thing I still learned during COVID is that it is important to extend the hand of kindness to those in need. And as I did mention earlier, the needy, the orphans, the physically challenged. In our part of the world, we don't do much to support the physically challenged. And I believe that if you do anything to support the physically challenged, you do it to support the orphan or the widow. And the person opens his mouth and says that, may God bless you. I'm telling you, that person speaks from the heart and you receive every blessing. I have tried it and I'm testifying. That is why I'm called Ato Testimony. Oh, it's so sweet, it's so sweet, it's so sweet. During COVID, one lesson I also learned is that local ingenuity increased. COVID forced people to be creative. In times of difficulty, people become creative. There were certain local machines that were invented by locals. Machines where hitherto people would have loved to import. They were able to invent those machines to deal with the local problems. So sometimes temptations or difficulties push us to do what ordinarily we wouldn't, have done. So COVID also taught us that yes, in times of difficulty, we have to do what we have to do. And from these lessons, I don't think we need to be in that difficulty before we have to do what we've got to do. Racial supremacy or racism, it has been with us since ages. But remember, COVID-19 is no respecter of persons. It affected the black, the white, the Caucasian, every color on this earth. Everybody was not spared. My brother and my sister, in case for years you have been assuming that you are better than somebody or you are more superior to somebody, I think you have to pause, cogitate on this issue, and know that we are all equal. We live by grace. It is God that created us, and when He created the world, He looked at everything. He said, His creation is good. So what God has created, who are we to say that you are superior to somebody or you are better than another person? We must think through this and redefine our relationship with one another. Countries versus countries. Regions versus regions. In conclusion, I will say that we came into this world with nothing and we will go with nothing. Just cast back your mind during the peak of the COVID. All the clothing, all the jewelry, all the money that you had in your bank accounts, were they useful to you? Where you were on the lockdown, why don't you stretch forth your hand to support somebody? Why don't you deal honestly with your fellow brother? Because I believe that if you share your resources with the needy out of a genuine heart, you'll be blessed and you'll be happy in your lifetime, seeing that your little contribution has been able to change life. Remember, we came with nothing and we go with nothing. I'll come your way again. This is your friend, Actor's Testimony. Remember to subscribe to Prime Testimony channel. Like it and share it with many, 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 many people. Bye.